afternoon! Wow. Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Danny and Dusty back together again. How are you?
I'm good. But more importantly, how are you?
I'm good. I'm holding it together. It was a good weekend, a long weekend. Not built like I'm used to anymore.
We let everybody know that you and Suk were getting crabs together.
We did. We got a lot of crabs together. Got a lot of crabs together. It was really good. It was really good. It's kind of a weird thing.
To get crabs with another dude, yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. We go every year. Well, this was Suk's first year, but go with a group of guys out to Eastern Oregon. And
where one goes to get crabs.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We drive 6 hours in the opposite direction, and we'll go to a crab feed. And it's a great time. It's a great time. It's a lot of just dudes being dudes, you know?
I like it.
Out in the country.
Yeah, nothing like heading further inland to go eat a bunch of,
fresh seafood.
I'll tell you,
saltwater seafood.
But it's delicious. You zig when everybody else zags,
right? There
Jeff.
you go.
That's what you do. Nobody catches you in that one.
Speaking of nobody's looking.
Yeah, and I did shave my mustache when I got home.
Sure LP was very appreciative of that.
She was not.
No?
This was the thing, is that I got criticized by my daughter who said I look like a French waiter. And the first thing she said when she saw me was, "Ooh, gross." Okay? My son told me I look trash and then asked me multiple times, like, "Is that your real hair? Like, is that actually a thing?" Like, and then he was just yanking on my stash. I get home and first thing kids are obviously like, "When are you going to just get rid of this?" So I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll go and quick shave." I come down, my wife goes, "Oh, you shaved?" And I was like, "Yes." Thought that was kind of the consensus with everybody here.
Right.
She's like, "No, I kind of liked it." So I'm happy to announce it's coming back.
Coming back, baby!
It's coming back.
Hey!
It's coming back.
That's how this goes.
Yeah.
They say no.
Thank you.
And then you get it, and then you take it away, and they're like, "Wait, no, bring that back."
It wasn't. People didn't oppose it.
No.
People didn't oppose it. There was a lot of comments from the locals in Eastern Oregon as to, like, did you just get off the set of a porn? What is this?
Do you have an ankle bracelet on?
Yeah.
Are you allowed within 500 feet?
But and then I'm just looking around like,
modeling for the new cover on a pizza box.
yeah, Tony's. That was good
Right?
and very fitting.
Yeah.
But it was like there was a lot of just like looking around, just being like, look at all the other facial hair here, and you're picking me out? Golly.
That means, listen, it stood out, man.
It was something.
You made your impression. You made your mark.
It was a thing.
It was something.
It was
Certainly.
a thing. It was a thing.
Knowing
So
some of
it's
the
gone
guys that were with you, there's some strong facial hair in that group.
now. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Here's the thing that I need to. We made this a quest as we were on our trip. So one of the guys that joins us is, I say, he is living every child's dream. Like, truly. What things that we love as kids? We love football. We love jets. We love monster trucks. And we love wrestling, right?
Indeed.
Those four. Nick Reed, former Oregon defensive lineman, he comes out with us, and he told us, we were talking about it, and I was like, "Dude, you're living every kid's dream. Have you ever driven a monster truck?" He said no. He has played in the NFL. He has he's a stealth bomber pilot.
Indeed.
We know this. Remember the Rose Bowl where Oregon played Wisconsin, and he coordinated the stealth flyover. We need to get him in a monster truck. Yeah. Driving a monster truck. He can hold the holy trinity of things that every kid wants to do, which is fly jets, play in the NFL, and then drive a monster truck.
They were just here last week.
I know. I know.
He's going to have all them Infinity Stones.
All of them. Wouldn't that be awesome? So
that's a good one.
This is a quest that we are starting, and hopefully 1080 The Fan can make it come to fruition. That we have we have to wait like a whole year, but the next time
I think they come around sooner than that.
Yeah, we need to coordinate him getting behind the wheel of Gravedigger though, look, I'll just take any monster truck at this point. We'll take any monster truck. Gravedigger, we're going to shoot for the moon.
Yeah,
everybody wants Gravedigger. Bigfoot's retired,
so
we got to go. We got to go Gravedigger.
Bigfoot,
yeah, Bigfoot.
Retired.
They retired Bigfoot. That's sad.
They tell him to get.
Yeah, they said get Bigfoot. Yeah, beautiful hair.
Did they old yeller him?
No. Ooh, that's a great question.
Take him out back and slash his tires?
If I'm correct, he doesn't drive in like Monster Jam, which is where I mean, that's the one we know. I think he does like county fairs, which I mean, that's like an old band, right?
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow.
Hey, look, don't discount the county fair and the state fair circuit. That's where I saw Poison and Def Leppard, and it was tremendous.
See?
Tremendous.
Tremendous.
You're not helping their cause here.
No, I think I absolutely just did.
Dude, those are awesome, though. Okay, Bigfoot monster truck. He's still alive. But I don't think it. It's
smaller
just,
tires jumping over smaller cars.
Yeah, 2023 was the last ride. So recently, I don't even think he's doing the county fair circuit anymore. That's sad. That's like a piece of my childhood.
Oh yeah,
like Bigfoot versus Gravedigger. Those were
the smell of the high octane fuel that when you go to that thing, you could just
I'll tell you
in
what.
the air.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, and that smell, that is a thing when you walk in that
Oh,
arena
yeah.
too on those nights.
God.
It's
It's a feeling.
It's half the
it's-
reason
it's
we're
a
going is
feeling.
getting that high.
It's thick.
Yeah. It's a feeling.
A lot of rubber, a lot of octane.
Yeah, you just kind of like you walk out and you're like fresh air. It's
Yeah.
like it's like when you're in the South and you go from the mugginess to an air conditioned room and you're like, this feels different.
Yeah.
I needed this in my life, like
It
fresh air.
It hits your sinuses and you're like, oh, that's that good stuff.
Oh yeah, baby.
But by the good stuff, you mean the clean oxygen.
I can breathe.
Yeah. So it was a great weekend. I am glad to be back. And what a day it's already been, man. What a day it's already been. We need to. We got a lot of football that we need to get to.
Football's going to football real hard.
Holy smokes. We also got some Blazers. A great weekend for the Blazers.
Indeed.
I mean, it was like
Getting back, getting healthy.
there we go. Overtime victory on Saturday.
DA had a hell of a game.
Golly. So we got Blazers, we got the NFL. I've got match fixing news.
Yeah, you pointed out this story to
Yeah.
me, and wow.
We'll have that audio coming up a little bit later in the show, but we have also you guys talk about Temple basketball on Friday?
We did not.
Do you know about Temple basketball?
No.
I thought we talked about Temple basketball every Friday.
Yeah. Well, Temple basketball.
We had a lot going on Friday.
This year, Temple basketball is being investigated for 4 different games of match fixing.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Oh.
one against UAB, and point shaving scheme is hitting the college hoops world, and then then there's piggyback.
Isn't Pepperdine
shaving,
wrapped into
too.
this too?
I don't know.
I thought I saw
believe
them
so.
wrapped up in one of these too.
They may have been one of the games, but yeah, Temple is apparently dirty as all hell. And this we need. John Chaney's dead, right? I think he's dead. Legendary Temple coach.
Yeah.
I think John Chaney very dead.
But
I want to say like 2011. Does that sound about right?
I don't know. I went with Dick Cheney, also dead though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right.
January 29th, 2021.
yeah. Ooh.
Wow!
That long
I
ago.
killed him a decade earlier.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
you
well, it
certainly
was
did.
also during
Golly.
COVID, which might as well be a decade earlier.
That's actually not a terrible point.
It happens.
Yeah.
Anything that happened during COVID is you can move it forward or backwards at least 5 years.
89 years old when he died.
Which
That's
is
a good
crazy
run.
because he looked like he was 89 like in the prime of his coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a good run.
When he tried to, was it Calipari? He tried to fight.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tried to
John
strangle him or
Calipari.
something.
Yeah, he tried to fight John Calipari after a game.
I'm sure that's not the first time John Calipari somebody wanted to strangle him.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
It's not a guy I would want to try to like. I feel like you're getting on a hit list, like him and Rick Pitino.
Wow,
sorry.
are you making a reference to their last names perhaps?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. As an
And-
Italian American, yeah, yeah, I am.
Also, and then the mob and Temple. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know if the mob is connected to this one. I don't know if the mob is connected with this one.
We'll
Where's
get to
Temple
that story
at?
later.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Where's Temple at?
Philadelphia,
Okay.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's not New York.
Yeah, dude, so far away. Wait till you hear where the other point shaving scandal is coming out of, and then we'll all go, "Oh boy."
Oh,
Okay.
that Northeast.
Fingers everywhere. No.
No?
No. So all of a sudden we got to get to it. It's been a banner day. Do you have a good weekend though?
Did.
Great weekend.
Yeah, it was a very
Good.
solid weekend. Got a little basketball done. Spent an ungodly amount of money at the Nike employee store.
Oh yeah, that's always a tough trip when you get in
Yeah,
there.
wife went with me.
Oh, that's an even tougher trip
Yeah,
then.
one hurt a little bit.
Yep. You get went big, huh?
Yeah, but it had been a while.
That's one of the amazing things, though, is if you ever go in there and there's like a NBA team that's in town and the whole team goes in there and you just look around and you're like, good Lord, what? Like they have just multiple shopping
full
carts.
carts loaded.
Loaded.
Like they'll have like one of the big carts just for shoes.
Yeah, it's wild.
And then it's like, oh, I want all of this.
Yeah. Just okay.
But it was
Let's
nice.
go.
I got in and out of there. I went on a Sunday and got in and out of there relatively quickly.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah, it was, sometimes you go in there and they don't, it's kind of a slim pickings. It was
Yeah.
not a slim pickings weekend.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
All right. If anybody knows any ins to the world of monster trucks, Vancouver Ford text lines 503-864-6326. I want in. We also are on youtube.com/1080am The Fan. We are streaming, folks. We are streaming. Our P1 Kings are already in the chat and ready to go. That's how you can communicate with the show. We got a lot that we need to get to. Where we got to start, though, look, free agency. It's the negotiating window in the NFL for free agents, and the ripple effects are already sending waves across the National Football League. We'll get to the biggest movers and shakers and the guy who just always seems to find the bag next. Danny and Dusty on The Fan. All right, the negotiating period in free agency is well underway across the National Football League. And professional bag getter Kirk Cousins is on the move again. Bull Kirkers, after 2 fully guaranteed contracts with the Minnesota Vikings after being franchise tagged 3 years in a row by the Washington Redskins at the time. He is now a member of the Atlanta Falcons, something that we talked about last week as a possibility. A 4-year, $180 million deal, $100 million of which is reportedly guaranteed. And
The Vikings wouldn't guarantee a penny. The
God.
Falcons said, bet.
$100 million in guarantees
Here's something insane.
for Kirk Cousins.
Do you know who is number 1 all-time in NFL earnings?
Kirk Cousins?
Aaron Rodgers. Do you know who's number 2?
Kirk Cousins?
Yes.
Yeah. That makes 100% sense.
$343.5 million for Aaron Rodgers.
Where's Sam Bradford in this list?
It's pretty good.
Well, I mean, he's probably pretty high. Right. Kirk Cousins at 331, Stafford at 328, Brady at 317.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins, if you're wondering, here's how the compensation is going to work out. I saw this via Tom Pelissero, and now Adam Schefter has the same numbers as well. But it is 4 years, $180 million, $100 million of which is guaranteed. $45 million a year is the average across the contract. He will receive a $50 million signing bonus. He will also have $90 million in the first year of his deal. So a $50 million signing bonus and then $40 million this year in cash. And then after that, though,
coming
if you
off
look
an
at
Achilles tear,
$10 million is guaranteed next year. And so this is why you're looking at it as a 4-year deal. They have their outs after 2 years. So after next year, they have an out with Kirk Cousins to where if they're saying doesn't work out, not the right fit,
he doesn't come back
the
from his
Achilles
Achilles,
isn't
whatever.
great. You're only connected to him for really this year for a ton of money, and then next year you got $10 million in guarantees.
And you're not paying anybody right now as the Falcons. So you can front load the living bejesus out of this and then be like, oops, take backs.
Yeah. It's a crazy amount of money. And he is 35 years old. So he'll be 39 at the end of this deal. And this is just the value of quarterback, right? And this is what desperation does to teams. And what the Minnesota Vikings said was, hey, we're not going to do this game anymore. Like, we are not going to hamper any sort of movement that we can make to put a roster around Kirk Cousins that can be competitive, because this is inherently the problem when you have fully guaranteed contracts in the NFL with the way that it affects your salary cap is it takes up all the money for anybody else to get. And having all that money in cash up front, you have to put in that escrow account in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of cash that you have to have on hand, and then it affects how you spend everywhere else. So Minnesota apparently is eyeing, according to Diana Rossini, Sam Darnold.
Which I'm sure Justin Jefferson's going to be thrilled about that.
Yes.
And the other weird thing is the Vikings spent a truckload of money on Jonathan Greenard, and Danielle Hunter is going to likely be out the door. It's like, but why? You don't have a quarterback. Why are you investing in all this money other places already and you don't have a quarterback?
Well, I see where they're trying to go here is if they finally have that flexibility to spend elsewhere to support a guy like, I guess, Sam Darnold. This just tells me they're going to draft somebody. Like they're going to go draft a quarterback. They are currently sitting, remember, we've discussed this, that 11, 12, 13 range where you have Minnesota, Denver, and Vegas all in a row. All three of those teams are needing quarterbacks right now. And so what's going to happen is this: when the first three go off the board, because it by all accounts, Bears are going to go Caleb Williams. The Commanders, apparently, the new report is that they're falling more and more in love with Jaden Daniels. The Patriots will go and get Drake May. And then you're at that fourth quarterback. Whether it's J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, those are the three guys in that 4, 5, 6 range of quarterbacks. This is going to be the hairy part about you are reaching. And if those three teams are in order, which they are at 11, 12, and 13, with Minnesota being 11, Denver 12, Vegas 13, all of a sudden, all those teams that are in front of it, if you're New York, if you're Chicago, who's sitting at 9th, and you're saying, this is our second first-round pick, all right, how are you going to grease the skids here so we can get a little bit more help here? Those teams are going to be jockeying for that position with whoever they fall in love with the fourth quarterback.
The interesting thing about that is there does seem to be more and more noise about the Raiders pulling together draft capital and moving up to your Patriots at 3 to take Daniels.
And then Washington kind of throws the wrench in that because the latest report is they like Jaden Daniels.
And I think that's probably going to be a reason to try to push up the draft capital to move back.
Yeah. This Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta, it actually does affect a lot of things in the NFL. It spins it all. Because we have Russell Wilson, who agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That one was, that was the we actually laid all this out, that if Kirk went to Atlanta, it made sense Russ going to Pittsburgh on the sweetheart of a deal, $1.2 million for Russell Wilson to be in Pittsburgh.
Shout out the Broncos paying $34 million for Russ to play quarterback for the Steelers.
That's right. Then you have Kirk Cousins now going down to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. What changes things, and then what actually hurts it even more, Justin Fields' trade value has absolutely plummeted because Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. And Mac Jones being traded from New England to Jacksonville for a 6th-round pick, that hurts the value that the Bears were looking for.
Got
even
sent
more.
out for a jugs machine.
Because the two teams that were in that, all right, they're probably going to go out on a limb for a quarterback were Pittsburgh and Atlanta. They're now gone. Chicago's not going to send Justin Fields within the same division
to Minnesota.
And so you check them off the box. He's not going to go to Vegas and play for Luke Getsy, where Luke Getsy, remember, was the offensive coordinator for Chicago when Justin Fields said, I feel robotic out here early this past season.
Yeah, I'm thrilled about that hire.
So now you have, all right, where are the teams that need a quarterback that Justin Fields could go to? One, Atlanta, they're not going to be ponying up for a 2nd-round pick. You have Denver, Minnesota, and then is this the year that the Giants try to make a trade? And they're not going to give up a bunch of draft capital because they'll have Daniel Jones this year. Do you want to go and trade for a Justin Fields?
And that thing is, that's probably the most likely landing spots for Field right now if he's going to be a starter. Otherwise, he's getting moved to a team where he's going to be a backup because Jones is coming off the surgery. But the Giants have an out after this year with Daniel Jones. Much like the Kirk Cousins deal, it was front-loaded with the addition. Like, it had a bunch of money in it. The dead cap hit is not that drastic.
$11 million next year.
So if they can if they get through this year and they're like, okay, take backs on Daniel Jones, but they bring in Fields and they're like, he sucks less. And you use your draft capital elsewhere, then you might have a little bit of a reset. But we've already seen that Saquon Barkley is gone. So the safety blanket that was there, he's gone. So you're going to bring Fields in to try to compete with no Saquon and no wide receivers? That's an interesting twist.
It's a very deep wide receiver draft, and right now you're looking at New York. They have 2 second-round picks. Remember, they get Seattle's second-round pick this year due to the Leonard Williams trade. They have their own second-round pick, and then they are sitting there drafting at number 6 overall as well. You can sit there and you can say, all right, in a very deep wide receiver draft, with those first 3 picks in the first 2 rounds of the draft, they could go receiver at both of them, right? And they could get 2 really good receivers, and then you backfill with whatever position that else you feel a need at, because there's a lot with the New York Giants.
The entire offensive line.
So it'd be a horrible situation for any young quarterback to go to. Because of what you just said.
Yes.
Any of those guys that they would be drafting this year, you need a very stable offensive line, because Penix, with the injury history, you don't want him taking a bunch of hits. Bo Nix he thrives in a clean pocket.
Yep.
And JJ McCarthy really wasn't touched anyway.
Yeah, it turns out when you have an NFL offensive line in college, super helpful.
This is good. The ripple effect of Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson going to
The locations that they went
going to Atlanta, Russ going to Pittsburgh. This is huge for the NFL and how every other quarterback position shakes out. Because
I would argue even beyond the quarterbacks, because I think it also determines how, number one, the draft is going to go, and number two, how the rest of there are so many offensive linemen in free agency right now. Yeah. So many. And if all of a sudden you're a team like, well, we suck. We need to find some stopgap offensive linemen to protect our new young quarterback. You're already seeing guards are getting paid through the nose in free agency right now.
Yep.
Because of how loaded this class is and how much money's on the market. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how teams now prioritize their team building.
One team also to keep that eye on is Tampa and them holding on to Baker Mayfield
and
as
Mike
well.
Evans.
Like the Baker Mayfield 3-year deal, which is very friendly to them as well. Like it's also a very front-loaded contract that they can get their outs in, and plus you're just lining him up with Mike Evans in the final push of his career. They can have their outs after that. 3 years, $100 million is not. I think the guarantees on it are only like $40 million in Baker's contract. That's team friendly. But that also takes, as we were talking about with the Justin Fields movement, with anybody else looking for a quarterback, takes one more team off the board. You know, as we were talking about this, a team that I sitting there and I'm going, I could just, for whatever reason, I can see Miami just trading for Justin Fields and just parking him behind Tua for a year.
That wouldn't cause a controversy whatsoever.
No. Quarterback that's always hurt. Can't get it done. Mike McDaniel would find a way just to use him, put two quarterbacks on the field.
You're not wrong there.
They don't have the cap space to really make any other moves because of the cap hell that they were in this year. But as we were talking about, I'm like, I could just see them just saying, F it. We're going to go out and trade a late round pick and try to see if we can squeeze Fields.
Salvageable.
I don't think Chicago wants to send him to Minnesota. I know that Minnesota, they might become a player in this. Trading your quarterback within the same division,
not great, Bob. It's tough to do in conference, let alone in division.
No, because all he's going to do, you see them twice a year. He's just going to, even though Luke Getsy isn't the offensive coordinator, he's going to share all the secrets, all of them. How they attack you, how they feel about your roster, where the soft spots are in Chicago's roster. That's why you don't see movement, especially at the quarterback position within division like that.
Totally unrelated. No, not totally unrelated, but quarterback-wise, the Steelers are going to be paying their starting quarterbacks, whatever combination of Pickett, Wilson, $5 million combined.
Yeah, that's
seems like a good value.
It is, but at the same time, it's like the most valuable position in sports, and they have two guys that are very. Everybody's lost the faith in both of them in their
Did you ever have faith in Pickett?
No, I didn't. But everybody has lost the faith in Russell Wilson to be that guy. This is going to be a really interesting year because you have Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth. You've got Najee Harris in the backfield. They've got weapons there. They've just got to have that stability at the play call. And Russell Wilson was not horrible last year. Like he was not horrible.
Can I just say,
nobody liked him around him, and he did not fit that system.
What is this? 5 of the top 6 paid positions on the Steelers are on the defensive side of the ball. That's so very Steelers.
Well, I don't know, Raider fan, because it looks like you're in that same position. That was a great pickup. Wilkins is a Christian Wilkins,
Max Crosby duo.
Defensive lineman, just signed or is going to sign on Wednesday with the Vegas Raiders, free agent out of Miami. That is a nasty front, and if you look at them, they're paying right now Devontae Adams. And then everybody else on defense.
Yeah, they better find a way to pay somebody on the back end. That's for sure.
That's where they're going to probably move next. Is you're going to look at the back end of that defense.
You
have to bolster.
There is a lot of safeties in this free agent class.
Yeah, and none of them. We're getting no traction at the safety position.
They're going to keep them cheap.
Quarterback is the big one. I still can't believe that Kirk Cousins is just the guy that continually gets all of this money. Kirk Cousins is good, and by the way, perfect fit in Atlanta. Perfect fit in Atlanta. They've got so many weapons around him. If they can keep him upright, they are going to put up points, and they are going to be a dangerous team in the
Drake
NFC
London
South.
and Kyle Pitts have to be two of the happiest people on the planet. Just number one, a offensive coordinator, number two, a quarterback who can actually get rid of the ball on time.
Just how great is it to be a, middle of the road, slightly better than middle of the road NFL quarterback these days?
Yeah.
And who does look, good for him, good for Kirk, but who does he have naked pictures of?
Hey, I'll tell you what. I think it says a lot more about Russell Wilson and the fact that Denver was just like, nope.
Nah.
Look at Kirk Cousins, and you look at
Teammates like him.
Russell Wilson. Teammates love him. And Russell Wilson, they do not. If you're looking at tit for tat as what they can do throwing the football,
It's probably about the same.
I mean, you put Russell Wilson with Justin Jefferson, right? But put him with, prior to last year, Dalvin Cook and TJ Hawkinson. And like, he would have put up funny numbers too, but you peel the onion a little bit more and you keep looking and looking and you go, oh, they just had zero faith in him to the point where they're paying $85 million for him not to play there and $35 million for him to play for the Steelers this year. It's crazy.
Like that? You like that?
Kirk does.
All right, 503-864-6326. Quarterback is making moves, but the running backs, they've sorted themselves out
They're
in
going
a
everywhere.
major way. A devalued position is getting paid today, and one guy is staying within his own division as a free agent, and he's going to stick it to his former team twice a year. That after Rust with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air, serving Portland, Southwest Washington, and the Gorge, online at aneheatingandcooling.com. It's hard to stop a train. First on the Fan, Game 4 of the Trailblazers' 6-game homestand this evening with the Celtics in town. 7:30 tip on Root Sports and NBA TV. Malcolm Brogdon, Shaden Sharp, Jabari Walker out. Jeremy Grant, Abu Baji, Ashton Higgins, Justin Minaya are all questionable. The Blazers are 9.5-point dogs. In the NFL, ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Bengals receiver T. Higgins has requested a trade, and NFL free agency negotiating period began this morning. Former Giants running back Saquon Barkley, a 3-year, $37.75 million deal with the Eagles that could be worth up to $46.75 million. As we talked about just there, quarterback Kirk Cousins, 4 years, $180 million with the Falcons. The Raiders signing defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, 4 years, $110 million. Eagles defensive end Bryce Huff, that one's 3 years, $51.1 million. The Packers and former Raiders running back Josh Jacobs have agreed to a deal. Titans and former Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, 3 years, $24 million. The Colts and wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., that one is 3 years, $70 million. Eagles and Pro Bowl left guard Landon Dickerson, 4 years, $87 million extension. That makes him the highest paid guard in NFL history. The Bears and running back DeAndre Swift, 3 years, $24.5 million. Giants and guard John Runyon, 3 years, $30 million. Former Seahawks tight end Colby Parkinson, he's going for 3 years and $22.5 million with the Rams. Panthers and guard Robert Hunt, 5 years, $100 million. And the Packers releasing tackle David Bakhtiari and running back Aaron Jones. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust, the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Fan Madness, presented by George McCoy and Warren Allen Attorneys at Law. March 21st and 22nd at the Stadium Sports Bar at Alenay. Do the tournament with 1080 The Fan.
503-864-6326. That's the Vancouver Ford text line. All texts are via the Vancouver Ford text line. Your dollar goes further at Vancouver Ford. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them online at vancouverford.com. Got a lot of action today because the NFL machine is a churning. Content after content. This is what the NFL does, and today is a negotiating period for free agents. The term that Jeff Rust hates, legal tampering.
I hate it. I feel like it got jammed down like everybody at ESPN's throats. It's like a talking point because I was in the car for like 15 minutes yesterday and heard that term like 7 times.
Why does it bother you so much?
Okay, it's 2 words here. Legal tampering. If it's legal, it's not tampering. If it's tampering, it's not legal. This is not rocket surgery here, folks.
If you are watching on YouTube, Jeff Russ
Just
squirms.
He just rebooted.
I got smoke blowing out my ears.
Ooga.
All right. You are correct. It is a pretty ridiculous term, but it's the world we live in.
It's an oxymoron.
The quarterback's obviously most important position in sports. It's the one that carries the most weight. We know that. And there was monumental movement when Kirk Cousins goes down to Atlanta. You have Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh, and the ripple effects that it sends to every other team that is looking for a quarterback. But one position that it's been very well documented how the players at running back feel they are undervalued and underpaid. Whether it was Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley last year having their kumbaya little summit about the value of their position and holdouts because they didn't want to play under the tag. Or you just look at how slow it usually moves at that position for guys to get long-term deals. The first day to negotiate free agent deals, running backs are getting paid. And Saquon Barkley is getting the second highest average contract in running backs history in the NFL because he could be averaging $15 million per season under the deal that he struck with the Philadelphia Eagles. It is a 3-year, $37.75 million contract worth up to $46.75. $26 million is guaranteed. He now has beat that number of the franchise tag. It could be up to $15.833 per season in Philly.
Which, I mean, go get your money. The fun part about this, of course, is that he also gets to stick it to the Giants who failed to build around either him or sign contractually the right deals for guys, botching the Jones-Saquon process last year where they should have tagged Jones and just signed Saquon. They would have been in a much better financial position going forward.
Sure would have.
Yikes, dog. And they probably would have gotten Saquon cheaper because he just wanted 12.
Yeah, he just wanted to beat the franchise tag number. And now he does it with your rival that you have to play 2 times per year. And
where they're not going to sit there and hand him the ball or get him the ball 25 times a game because they have other guys.
This is now you look at A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. You've got Jalen Hurts behind center. They do need to rework their offensive line. And looking at where they're drafting at 22nd, they will get in a very center-heavy draft.
3 first-round centers.
They have got to replace Jason Kelsey, and that is a massive replacement. But also, we had Fletcher Cox retiring over the weekend too, which that is a big hole. And this is something that I've been saying since the end of the season, where it's like they're aging, but they're going to have a lot more holes that they need to fill.
They did re-sign Bryce Huff though too.
I mean, I thought Bryce Huff
didn't they?
No, I think he is gone. I think Bryce Huff,
hang on here. I got it. Eagles.
Yeah,
3
Eagles.
years, 51. 3 years, $51.1 million.
There we go.
Yeah.
So you got good.
I mean,
good. But you have your other Lane Johnson is always hurt, and when he's healthy, he's really damn good.
Yeah.
They're going to have to use their draft capital to rework a lot of their positions that have been stable and, to be quite frank, outstanding. But you've had one of the best centers in the NFL for over a decade. Fletcher Cox has been Mr. Reliable, and even as his production, if his production goes down, it's that leadership quality and kind of being the steadying force on the defensive side of the ball. Philly's got their problems and their holes. They get Saquon Barkley, though, so you can win in a variety of ways when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and Saquon Barkley as your focal points.
Yes, they've got the ability to attack you on every level. And now they kind of... I think they're more multiple, even obviously than they were when they had DeAndre Swift. It's just there's more to Barkley when he's healthy.
Also, in the running back market, you had a surprising move on a couple of fronts where Josh Jacobs leaving the Raiders, not surprising, but going to the Green Bay Packers on a deal.
Have 2 running backs.
Well, not anymore. Because they're cutting Aaron Jones to make way for Josh Jacobs. A.J. Dillon is a free agent, but he's going to be the workhorse back up in Green Bay this year. In year 2 would alleviate a lot of that pressure off of Jordan Love, which I thought having the 2 backs this past year, it was huge for Jordan Love. Now you add Josh Jacobs, who he wants to get his, man. He's going to be very productive in Green Bay.
The Jones thing has always felt weird in Green Bay. There's always been some sort of like hesitance. Even when Jones was cooking, there was like, okay, no, but what about A.J. Dillon? Like they were ready to move on from Aaron Jones so early, even when he was great. And I've never really understood why that was.
It's draft and develop is always what Green Bay does. This is kind of weird on a couple of fronts. One, a free agent splash at the running back position, and 2, you're right. It was always like when at the beginning of his career, it was, does he fit the system? And then it was like, no, he's really damn good.
No, he's really good. It doesn't matter.
He's really damn good. But you're right. You always had that feeling like they were almost trying to move on from Aaron Jones.
Before he got there.
Before he even popped. And it's like, then he popped and it's like, still same feeling. It was a weird relationship that he had in Green Bay.
Just, I guess, square peg, round hole.
Yeah. Now you look at it, Vegas, all you have is Devontae Adams.
Yeah, it's,
that offense is a barren wasteland.
Yeah, there's no quarterback. No, AOC does not count. Devontae Adams, whom I love. Jacoby Myers, whom I don't.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers was the ultimate Josh McDaniels signing.
That parting gift.
Where you brought him in because he was from New England. He was very successful in McDaniels' offense because of the fact he understood what they tried to do. He doesn't fit anywhere else, really.
No, Mayer's a good tight end. I think that will probably be found out even more with a better quarterback.
Yeah.
And a better utilization of him because the physical tools are there. But yeah, there's no quarterback. There's no running back. There's they are taking care of the offensive line. They're re-signing their center. They're re-signing Colton Miller. They're going to go down that path, which good. Miller's turned into a good tackle. Barham's a good center. So you go down that road, but you have a chasm at quarterback. You don't have a second wide receiver. You don't have a running back.
No running back.
And you have no depth anywhere else at your skill spots. So great that they have one of the best probably defensive fronts in football because, by God, they're going to be chasing quarterbacks.
Antonio Pierce is going to try to win like 3-0 every game.
Yeah, but they're going to have to figure out the quarterback thing. And I don't – they're the Sean Reed and Vic Tafur, who are been tight with the Raiders, have said that the Raiders are chasing about moving up the draft board to go get Jaden Daniels, who Antonio Pierce coached in college.
But that wasn't a good relationship they had at Arizona State. It was an absolute disaster with Herm Edwards running the show.
This is
you
why
had the
I throw my
reports of
hands
his mom like barging in and demanding meetings and wanting to sit in on position meetings and stuff like that. You had
I wonder what she thinks of the route tree.
When you had Jaden Daniels transfer to LSU, do you remember the cell phone video that emerged of all of his teammates being like, F that guy, good riddance, raiding his locker, which was a very bizarre thing to have happen. It was a messy relationship at Arizona State.
Little Lord of the Flies situation there.
Yeah, it was not good at all. So that would be an interesting move, but they're going to have to give up a ton. And when you have as many holes as we just talked about,
you can't do that.
The Raiders can't afford to give up draft capital because, one, your owner isn't very rich, and he's spending a lot of money on guys like Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby on the defensive side of the ball.
Tom Brady's chipping in now.
You're going to have to go and build your back end of your defense, and you're going to have to do that with young talent through the draft. So you're going to use that draft capital to move up? That doesn't make sense.
That which means it's right on par.
Yeah. But elsewhere in the running back movement, so you got Saquon Barkley, he's going to Philly.
Mm-hmm.
You have Josh Jacobs going to Green Bay. Tony Pollard is, after 1 year of being the lead back in Dallas, now they've got a hole because he's going to the Tennessee Titans to replace Derrick Henry, 3-year, $24 million deal. In Tennessee, that's $8 million a year. DeAndre Swift has left Philly and is going to the
Bears.
Chicago Bears on a 3-year, $24 million deal. And there's one white whale still remaining in the running back class. Where does Derrick Henry land?
The big fella.
Where, and this is, you hear teams like the Chargers, which I think is a great fit for him. You see the Baltimore Ravens, which I'm not 100% sure that's the best fit in Baltimore, but
it's a big hammer to have, though.
it is a big hammer, big old boy. But you have some teams now. This running back market is going pretty quickly. Teams are acting, and now that Saquon has set the bar, what does that mean for the aging Derrick Henry?
What does it fall in like? Yeah,
and what does that look like for Derrick Henry? I still think if you are Jim Harbaugh, you are calling just to see about Derrick Henry and what it's going to take to get him. Could you imagine Derrick Henry in a Harbaugh offense?
Yeah.
Then you can go and you can draft Blake Corum, in the second, third round or wherever they have Blake Corum slotted, and you can have two backs, one aging, one that's been your workhorse before, and we know how Harbaugh loves his guys.
Then again, Harbaugh might look at Blake Corum and be like, I chewed through your knee. Probably going to have to go a different route.
But the Chargers also, they are fielding calls, according to a report. I think it was Diana Rossini of The Athletic. She had that they're taking calls on Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, oft-injured Joey Bosa.
They're going to have to move one of them.
Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
Yeah.
And so that could signal where they're going to go in the first round is they not an edge-heavy draft, probably going receiver in that at number 5. And then from there, or you go Brock Bowers, which I still would love. I still would love Brock Bowers.
I think they need to move on from one of Mack or Bosa.
Yeah, they
too much
financially they need to right now.
And that's the thing is you do it a year early, so as much as it sucks. And Bosa's the better player, but Mack's the guy who's there every week.
Yeah. This is going to be a very fascinating next 48 hours because on Wednesdays when guys can sign, we're going to see more. We're going to start seeing trades being made too. Because holes on rosters are being created and being filled through this. I mean, it was really like the first 2 hours.
It just happened. It happened very quickly because the legal tampering period was wide open ahead of this.
Gotta hate you.
I hate you guys.
I mean, we've said all this without barely talking about wide receivers, and T. Higgins has requested a trade.
Yeah, and we'll have that coming up a little bit later. The Bengals franchise tagged him, and he is saying, I'm not happy with the funny business that they're trying to play with me because turns out Mike Brown still very cheap as the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. We will have all that in hour number 2 and hour number 3. But we need to get to this point shaving audio.
Yeah, this is wild.
There is a former SEC quarterback that has quite the statement against the SEC and illegal sports gambling. We'll get to that next. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. It's this audio is very bizarre for a lot of reasons. One, it comes from the Momentum podcast, which I've never heard of. It's got a British guy on it. Just talking sports.
So you know it's professional.
Yeah. You've also got the fact that the guest on the Momentum podcast was Mo Hassan. I've never heard of him before. Former USC quarterback.
Yeah, I don't remember him making a throw, though.
Yeah, because he didn't, and he only threw 17 passes at Vanderbilt, where he was the quarterback for the Commodores. 17 passes sparingly.
For the Commodores.
But the bombshell that he dropped, it's not getting like all too much buzz right now, and I'm not quite sure why, especially because you have Temple basketball, which is they're looking into 4 games where betting was just off. Like way too much money was coming in on 4 games, mainly the UAB game where against UAB, like UAB went from being 1.5 point favorites to 7.
Interesting point here. Alabama.
Yeah.
Being involved there.
But the target is
college-based-
Temple being
But just the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
College baseball.
Sure.
College basketball. And college football?
Well, this is what Mo Hassan had to say because this should be the biggest story right now.
I was approached at Jason Aldean's bar in Nashville by the Italian mob.
What?
To fix football games.
I'll be
Like-
honest, this sounds like a story
Like
that
the mafia?
I do not need to be a part of.
I went to get drinks, and I'm not with my friend group. He comes up to me.
Wait, he knew who you were.
Yes.
This is already a bad start.
He offered me
He
$300,000.
offered you $300,000.
All right.
He said for something like this, my clients, $250 to $300K for a game.
The Italian mob offered you $300K to do
Can we
what?
stop saying that?
He said we regularly talk to guys in your position about fixing games. He said he named guys in the SEC who I don't want to say their names because they're in the NFL right now, and that's a bad look.
deal?
It's a bad deal. But University of Alabama, I will tell you that.
Holy crap.
He said almost every game in the SEC is
This
rigged.
Too much for me.
Almost every game in the SEC is rigged.
Real quick, who owns the TV rights deals for the SEC?
ESPN, CBS,
Oh, it's weird. Who are like the 2 biggest names in sports journalism?
ESPN, CBS.
Yeah, it's super weird why we're not hearing about this story at all.
Yeah. So
Why it hasn't caught fire?
I love underrated for me is in the middle of it there where the guy is right after he said something about the Italian mob. He's like, "Can we please stop saying that?"
I like that guy. That guy I like. He's like, I don't want to be a part of this conversation. Can we stop saying the Italian mob? Like, can we just say the guy?
Well,
Because he knows. He's like, I don't want anything to do with
and like
this.
when it came to filming The Godfather, they had mafiosos on set and stuff trying to lend credibility and credence and realistic realisticness to this to the thing. And they said the one thing they made sure they had to do, they didn't use the word mafia in the movie at all.
Oh,
Interesting.
weird.
I mean, Sopranos had what's his name, the
Pauly Walnuts.
yeah, an actual mob guy.
But they're like, hey, you want our help with this? And you don't say,
So
we don't talk about Bruno.
he said Alabama. He didn't want to name names. Well, you can just go and you can do, I don't know, a quick little Google search and see that Mo Hassan played at Vanderbilt in 2018 and 2019. Quarterbacks during that time would be Tua and Jalen Hurts. Were right around the times that he was in college. And then he transferred to USC in 2020, probably because of the mob. And he
It's harder to get to out there in LA.
did not play in 2020 or 2021. Why are we not, like, as a whole, this story I just saw, like, on the dark corners of the internet. You hadn't even seen it
No.
or heard that audio until just then.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I'm kind of joking, but I'm being dead serious. Why do you think you're not hearing about this? It's because it's the SEC and the implications of the biggest brand in college football.
You have 2019, Tua, Mac Jones, both took snaps for Bama. 2018, the other year that Mo was at Vandy, it was Tua, Jalen Hurts, and then also Mac Jones had 13 attempts that year. All 3 of those guys are playing in the NFL.
Yes. The thing about this is it's not just that it's the SEC.
That
It's
is-
that the cat is out of the bag. so to speak. Guess what, folks? This has been there.
That right there is. Everybody's like, oh, gambling. They're looking at Temple. It's like, see, legalized sports gambling is hurting the sport. This was before legalized sports gambling.
Do you know how many programs exist in college sports that you can gamble on? The number of weaknesses that you can target in college sports is innumerable. There's just too many people.
I think the legalization and kind of the watchdogs keeping a closer eye on it
makes it harder.
Going to make it very harder.
Because you're going to have tracking and software and algorithms that detect. That's how you figure out the Temple UAB one.
You have so many more boots on the ground and people keeping an eye on these things in states outside of Nevada, in New Jersey. And so we're starting to see kind of this growth, and they're nipping it real quickly. This is I will be very interested to see where this goes and if Mo Hassan is wearing cement boots later. What a bold move just to be like, yep, Italian mob came up to me at a bar.
Why be so specific?
Alabama quarterback, and it's just like, oh boy.
Hey Mo, come check out this end zone over here at the Meadowlands.
How quick until we find the Mo Hassan being like, I was just kidding. I wasn't being honest. I think that one's coming very quickly.
I wouldn't be shocked one bit.
It's a pretty huge bombshell.
It'll go right under the rug.
All right. Hour number 2, we get things going. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
If the police have officers who specialize in DUI
churning still. You have Xavier McKinney, former Giants safety. He is heading to the Green Bay Packers. Packers making a bunch of splashes.
They said, we saw you, Jordan Love. We're going to go ahead and build a team around you real quick.
And defense has been a lot of money doled out. We talk about both the quarterback and running back positions in hour number one. Defenders are getting that cash too, because one of the very first big moves of the day was you saw Jonathan Grenard of the Houston Texans. He goes up to the Minnesota Vikings because with Danielle Hunter being gone, I think they got another edge rusher who's going to be gone. They're trying to bolster their pass rush. You had Christian Wilkins go from Miami to the Vegas Raiders, and he's getting a boat ton of money, and that's going to be an incredible front that now that you have Max Crosby and Wilkins next to each other. The Grenard one to Minnesota, the only thing that scares me about that is he popped in the year. It was a contract year, but the first year of DeMeco Ryans, who we have seen how successful his defenses are.
System optimization thing.
Yeah, and squeezing that skill set out and getting the most out of him in his contract year. But he goes and gets paid. He's going to go to Minnesota. And now Diana Rossini is saying that the Eagles aren't done yet after they go and they get Saquon Barkley earlier today. Apparently there's another move coming down the pipeline, and many believe it'll be on the defensive side of the football. And so there's a lot of people who thought Xavier McKinney may be that guy, another New York to Philly move. It is not. He's going to Green Bay. And this is a wild amount of movement from really good players, and we saw, in the weeks leading up to this, the cap casualties. It was an all-time high. This is like the biggest name movement that the NFL has seen in quite some time. And we're not even 6 hours into free agency.
Yeah, no, this thing is really churning along. And we talked about this last week with how much money is out there in cap space. But also you had the additional cap spike of additional, what was it, $6 million
per team?
But yeah, for I was saying $6 million project over the projections.
Oh, yeah.
So that $6 million that you didn't plan on having is when you $6 million times 32, that's a lot of money to sort out. That's another $100 million on the market up for grabs.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about how much is guaranteed in these deals, that's probably another 20 guys getting paid. So the way this stacks out, it's like, okay. Like, I mean, the latest one, the Giants are signing Delvin Singletary to a 3-year deal worth almost $20 million.
I don't understand what the Giants are doing.
Letting go of good players and then trying to go out there and get players that they can kind of have slotted in that aren't as good on slightly cheaper deals.
It's quite the move.
I guess.
Yeah.
Sure. Whatever. But it doesn't make any sense what they have going on right now. But you have a ton of movement, and you're going to get a ton of movement as you progress down that ladder, where one guy pushes another guy. And I don't think we haven't yet seen the market set on wide receiver. We haven't seen the market set on any of the safeties. We really haven't seen it set on the pass rushers. Like, if you go at the edge defenders, the two top guys, Allen and Burns, got their franchise tags.
Yep.
But beyond that, you have Huff.
Josh Allen in Jacksonville, Brian Burns in Carolina.
But Danielle Hunter's out there, Clowney's out there, Zadarius Smith, Josh Uche, Leonard Floyd, Van Ginkel did sign.
Yep. And that is they got a steal of a deal with Van Ginkel, who he was the linebacker with the Miami Dolphins. And he got hurt this past year, but he got a 2-year, $20 million deal.
But again, that's, I believe, a below market one because of the injuries.
Productive.
But then you look at the linebacker class. The only free agent linebacker that has signed so far, Drew Tranquill re-signing with the Chiefs. You've got Patrick Queen. You've got Levante David. The Seahawks are moving on from Bobby Wagner. There is so much talent in this free agent class.
In I know the 12s are out there and they're kind of like, oh, Bobby's gone again. Led the NFL in tackles last year. Mike McDonald coming in, new system, new culture, reset the defense, and let Bobby Wagner kind of ride off into the sunset. He's an all-time
He's first ballot Hall of
CLC
Famer.
honor. But he is going to be gone. And yeah, I mean the only other move is Blake Cashman, a linebacker out of Houston, again going to Minnesota. That Houston to Minnesota, two different guys, and he got a 3-year, $25 million deal. So not a whole heck of a lot of money really at all. Changing hands here at the linebacker position. The edge in really the defensive line, it's going to be at a premium. Edge is not big in this draft class. It's down from years past and how important that position has been. But also kind of note, the San Francisco 49ers may see some big movement with a former Oregon Duck on the outs. We'll get to that next. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
It's the Vancouver Ford text line.
Duck Eric Armstead is going to be a post-June 1 designation for release, according to multiple reports. Jordan Schultz, Bleacher Report, the first to jump on it. Adam Schefter of ESPN, Matt Mayoko of NBC Sports Bay Area confirming the report because the San Francisco 49ers approached Armstead about taking a significant pay cut. He was entering the final year of his 5-year, $85 million deal with San Francisco, and they wanted to restructure and renegotiate that thing. And he said, no, take a hike. I'm not taking less money. I want my money. And so what they're going to do is they are going – apparently, Adam Schefter said they got close but could not cross the finish line.
How?
And they are going to get about $18 million in salary cap space.
How? How do you get close and screw this up?
Well, because he didn't want to take a pay cut, and right now you have the Niners who are sitting at, like, what, $25 million over? Is that what it is? How much over the cap are they? You can't afford to pay everybody, and that's one of the hard things is that when you draft so well for consecutive years, you have all these guys coming up, and that was the thing with San Francisco, right? How are you paying Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa? You have a quarterback that is dirt cheap, but you're staring down the barrel. You also have Nick Bosa, who you've re-upped with. Fred Warner has got a big deal. You can't keep all of them in this era of the NFL.
By God, is that Calais Campbell's music?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's crazy.
And if you're Armstead, we were just talking about this, there's a truckload of money out there.
Yeah.
And so you use that as your leverage point of somebody else is going to have to take a pay cut, not me.
You get close, but the earning window is so small.
Yep.
And I think what Eric Armstead is kind of realizing too is, he's played a long time in San Francisco. He's been there for like, what, 7 or 8 years? I mean, he has been there for a while. And you see your earning window is getting smaller and smaller. So you don't want to take that pay cut now if there is that truckload of money sitting around in the NFL like you were just talking about. The Niners are currently, and I think Spot Trek put this into the books there, they're $3.4 million over the cap as it stands right now. So that they have Trent Williams is on the book for 31 this year. Debo's on the books for 28. Fred Warner's on the books for 24. George Kittle 22.
Kittle's making that much on the books?
Well, it's a cap hit.
Yeah.
I mean, in cash,
I was just
it's
saying
not.
on the books.
Yeah. His base salary is only $13.4 million.
Well, the Chargers have their running back.
And then Charvarius Ward is on for $18 million. Hargrave 15, Bosa 14.5, McCaffrey 14, Ayuk 14. Those guys, think of that. How many guys are over?
Yeah,
$14 million, and you're not paying your quarterback right now, but you're paying everybody else, and that's where guys like Eric Armstead, it's going to be a big hit to their defense.
The earning windows are going to get a little bit weird for everybody, and it's not the situation where you stumble into one or two of those guys that you can get to talk them into chasing a title.
Yeah,
but that's after you've been paid. Armstead just happened to be there from the jump.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like So it's not exactly hard to see him say, "I'm good," because I've not been the guy getting paid.
Yeah.
So,
well, that is this is going to be a big one for San Francisco.
That's another guy on the list where they go, who would like to have a very, 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 very good in prime defensive end 3-4
He's
tackle?
He's going to be a really damn valuable commodity for teams that are looking to bolster their front seven, man.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, speaking of bolstering the team, like I just said, the Chargers have added their running back now. It appears Gus Edwards is going to agree to a 2-year deal with the Chargers, which the Chargers going cheap on the running back, which means maybe they're going to swing somewhere else in the draft or in the trade.
Well, yeah, and they're another team that doesn't have heck of a lot of cap space, especially when you have Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen, who they're trying to find trades for. Those guys still on the books, and you're $20 million over the cap. You can't
take
really
a little 2-year flyer on Gus
right
Edwards, who's coming up. God, hasn't Gus had 2 knee surgeries?
And you're just going to draft in try to get that depth there. I mean, this is all just careening down the road of they're going to do whatever it takes to get Blake Corum. Harbaugh's going to want to get his guy that he trusts.
But between Gus Edwards and Blake Corum, they'll have one ACL.
There you go. And so you got that going for you, which is nice.
I mean, I knew financially they were going to be in trouble, but hasn't Gus had back-to-back ACLs, or is it back-to-back Achilles?
I don't know about that. I don't know about Gus Edwards. That is
the Gus bus has been dinged up.
Look, this is where Harbaugh and his connection with his brother, how many guys have they plucked from the Ravens staff already to build his staff at either Michigan or now in LA with the Chargers? He has that trust in John, his brother. He's seen Gus Edwards. He knows Gus Edwards, and he knows that Gus Edwards is going to understand what they're doing offensively as well.
Just one ACL
with Greg Roman as the OC again.
Again,
who was
having that
formerly the
relationship,
OC in Baltimore.
But Gus Bus did have the ACL in 2021.
Okay.
He had the hamstring that lingered for 2022.
Okay.
And then he picked up a concussion in 2023.
That's not that bad. I mean, they get him.
It's
Yikes.
He did miss all of 2015 with a foot injury.
He's long in the tooth, man.
Has Gus been around for that long?
Yeah. He's been around forever.
That just
old quarterback. That's why he's not getting any money. Or old running back, not getting any money.
It feels like that's a bit of a
bit of a what?
It's just, it feels like it's I know they don't have any money, but
they don't when you don't have money, you have to, there are spots that they need to fill. You have to do it on the cheap, and so you're going to get guys where he's not breaking the bank by any stretch of the imagination.
Looking at the other options, you've got Austin Eckler, you've got J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Zach Moss, Donta Freeman, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's kind of who you're sitting with. So I guess Gus Bus is...
I mean, you're not getting Eckler back.
Yeah,
because of the contract issues. You couldn't pay him last year.
And not only that, Eckler's another guy who's habitually injured.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess you're swapping one injury-riddled running back for another?
They need to just knock this draft out of the park.
Yeah, which they've done well in the past. Let's see how a new GM does, ?
Well, and where you pull Horowitz, he is a Harbaugh guy through and through. They're going to go through, and Harbaugh has this advantage that he had when he was in San Francisco early, where you have this intimate knowledge of what these guys are like in college because you're more focused on those guys than the NFL guys are coming up and coming through. So we'll see. This is a big year for the Chargers, though, because when Herbert's money really starts affecting you on the books, it's going to make it exponentially tougher to field a championship caliber team. And we're already seeing the tough decisions that they have to make right now. They just held on to Brandon Staley for 1 year too long.
Oof. Well, if they don't hold on to Staley, then maybe they don't get Harbaugh.
That's very true.
So
as well.
Maybe it works out for them in the long run. Speaking of working out for somebody in the long run, there's a women's basketball coach who it probably didn't work out for well in the long run, and yet they still let her go out on the podium. We'll get to that on our worst day on the web. But first, here's Jeff Russ with a Sports Center update.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a team of attorneys that you can put your trust into. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today, online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on The Fan, Game 4 of the Trailblazers 6-game homestand this evening with the Celtics in town. 7:30 tip on Root Sports and NBA TV. Malcolm Brogdon, Shaedon Sharpe, Jabari Walker out. Jeremy Grant, Abu Baji, Ashton Higgins, Justin Minaya questionable. The Blazers are 11.5-point dogs. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Bengals receiver T. Higgins has requested a trade, and NFL free agency negotiating has begun today. Eagles and former Giants running back Saquon Barkley, 3 years, $37.75 million. Quarterback Kirk Cousins, 4 years, $180 million with the Falcons. Raiders and defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, 4 years, $110 million. Eagles and defensive end Bryce Huff, 3 years, $51.1 million. Packers and former Raiders running back Josh Jacobs have agreed to a deal. The Titans and former Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, 3 years, $24 million. Colts and wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., 3 years, $70 million. Eagles and Pro Bowl left guard Landon Dickerson, 4 years, $87 million extension. That's the highest paid guard in NFL history. Bears and running back DeAndre Swift, 3 years, $24.5 million. Giants guard John Runyon, 3 years, $30 million. Rams and former Seahawks tight end Colby Parkinson, that's 3 years and $22.5 million. Panthers and guard Robert Hunt, 5 years, $100 million. Packers and safety Xavier McKinney, 4 years, $68 million. Giants and running back Devin Singletary, 3 years, $16.5 million. And Chargers and former Ravens running back Gus Edwards for 2 years. Elsewhere, the Packers releasing tackle David Bakhtiari and running back Aaron Jones. That frees up over $26 million of cap space. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Russ at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Live, local, and free. No subscription required. Portland's sports leader is 1080 The Fan. Worst day on the web. with Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Well, that sucks.
There's kind of a rule when you fire someone or you get fired, you typically don't you shut off their email, their phone line. You don't let them say goodbye to people.
The key card gets
deactivated before you get fired. Yeah. Your password and your access to the computer system goes away, because sometimes you'll go out there and you'll go full half baked and go, who's coming with me?
That's Jerry Maguire. Half baked is F you, you're cool. F you, you're cool. F you, I'm out.
Jim Brewer did also do the who's coming with me.
Yeah, he drops it at the end. All I want to know is who's coming with me.
And you said that's half baked? Yeah. That is 100% Jerry Maguire.
It's both.
It's both.
It's both.
Jerry Maguire, wait first.
Well, yes.
Stolen from
100%
by half baked.
But also, I was implying the first part of that, the F you.
Who's coming with me?
You're cool.
You're cool.
And F you, I'm out of here.
You're cool. I'm out. Wrap it up, B. Wrap it up.
Wonderful. But Utah State had other ideas as after the MVC tournament, they put their coach out on the podium.
And how do you plan to rebuild for next season?
I'm not going to be rebuilding. I just coached my last game at Utah State. I spoke with Diana, and they're going in a different direction, and I respect her decision, and I hope they get a really good coach in. I'm assuming that's going to be the last question. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All. Thank you, Coach.
That's Kayla Ard, the former head coach at Utah State, who was 22-79 in her tenure.
Yeah, 3 seasons, 22-79. They went like 5-23, 2-14 in Mountain West play this year. They weren't good, and I actually appreciate that she just got up there and was like, "Yeah, I know I have to do this, but I don't know what you guys want me here for."
I mean, legally, if she's terminated, does she have to do the post game?
This just smells of she was already let go before they even played that game.
Sure.
Like she said, we'd already had this talk. When you have 2 wins in conference play, and by the way, any of her victories, one of them was against Warner Pacific, which is an NAIA school here in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And then Weber State, which was near the bottom of the Big Sky, was another one of their wins.
Yeah.
They just weren't good from start to finish. They had like a 15-game losing streak at one point this season. They're just not good. I have a feeling that this conversation had happened before the Mountain West tournament even started. And
which kind of makes us more egregious. Like, send an assistant up there if they're going to be on staff, or an AD up there, or literally anyone else. Putting somebody.
The one thing I go back
there.
to, this is Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards did this. He was fired as they were walking off the field. Like Ray Anderson gave him that talk, and he still did his little talk too. There's no easy way to do it, but I think it would almost be worse if they rolled her out there. And then right when she steps off the podium, then you fire her.
Yeah, you wait a week. That's just kind of how that goes.
Yeah, she was canned way before that, though.
Yeah, this does reek of if you're thinking, man, this whole situation sounds super familiar, because it does. Because the Trailblazers fired Kevin Pritchard and then said, "Hey, go do the draft for us and draft 2 guys from
Nevada, Nevada Reno." Armand Johnson, Luke Babbitt. Got the best shooter in the draft, guys. Got the best shooter in the draft. Luke Babbitt.
Hey,
you guys look at his.
Luke Babbitt is, I believe, top 20 in 3-point percentage all time.
Babbittized.
See, best shooter
Armand
in the
Johnson, not good.
G League All Star.
Not good.
G League All Star.
What, with the Idaho Stampede?
Yeah, absolutely.
A team that doesn't exist anymore?
He played like 5 games for the Blazers. Started. He's a Blazer starter. Armand Johnson. I wonder how many Nevada Reno basketball players have been drafted, period.
Kuzma?
Kyle Kuzma, he was Utah.
Was he Utah?
Yeah.
Why do I think Nevada?
I'm looking at, wow, there's not a lot. Ramon Sessions was.
Orlando Robinson, there you go. But yeah, Luke Babbitt, Armand Johnson leading the way.
Yeah, that's tough.
Whew.
That's really tough. But 2 of them, Portland Trailblazer greats.
in the same draft.
The latest was Jalen Harris. 2020 draft to the Raptors.
Yikes.
Yeah. That's a tough. Oh, JaVale McGee. I didn't know JaVale McGee.
Yeah,
was
and the Martin twins.
I didn't know he was.
Yeah, the Martin twins too. There you go.
All right. Okay.
Those are the best players from that school.
Good Lord. It went from, so you have Babbitt and Armand Johnson you had Nick Fazekas and Ramon Sessions. They were drafted in the same year. And then Armand Johnson, that was 2007. You go but to 2010, you have Luke Babbitt, Armand Johnson. Outside of that, 1979 are the only other years where they had multiple guys drafted.
Quite the run. You had 05, 2 guys in 07, a guy in 08, and then 2 guys in 2010.
It's a huge come up for the Nevada Arena.
A 5-year period where you put like legitimate dudes in the NBA.
And then you're back to being Nevada. Was that when, who was there? Eric Musselman? Wasn't he the coach?
That must have been Musselman, yeah. Which he's a legendary bag getter. Or bag giver.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Alabama basketball becoming a powerhouse again out of nowhere the second Musselman arrived.
I had no idea Steve Alford's a coach there now. Do you know that?
Yeah, Nevada?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fallen on dark times.
I would say so.
Yeah, it's hard out there these days.
No, Musselman was there 2015 to 2019, so that would be Mark Fox and David Carter.
So
neither one of those guys I've ever heard of.
But also 2017 and 2019 and then 2020.
They had guys drafted.
All go to the NBA.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that tracks.
All right.
So, all right. The bag works.
It always has worked.
Yeah, turns out.
Now it's just an NIL. Which I was reading an article about Indiana State with our boy Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the Robbie Avilas.
Avilas, yes.
There's an article that I think it was like Front Office Sports did, or no, Sportico. And they were talking about what it's going to take to keep him and their coach, because that's the big fear.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a small school. They have like a budget for NIL that's $200,000 right now. They're looking like it's going to take $300,000 just to keep him.
Because
next
he's
year.
featured across the country regularly.
And this is like every single mid-major is going through this right now of, if you have a guy that pops and he has eligibility moving forward, they're going to get plucked from your team unless you go and you have to come up with all of the NIL. The other part is that they're like currently fundraising to keep their coach too, because they think he's going to be gone
because he's done really well with him.
He only makes $215,000 at Indiana State. Somebody that's chump change in the world of college basketball. And he's done a phenomenal job with Indiana State. So they're like white knuckling this thing on how do we keep our boy Cream and how do we keep our coach beyond this year, because they have been irrelevant. I think they've only had like 2 other trips to the tournament since Larry Bird.
I love how Indiana State once every 50 years gets an awkward looking white dude who will just get buckets.
That's their thing though, is that they're like, we never were able to capitalize on Larry Bird. We have to find a way to do it with Robbie Avilas. And he's no Larry Bird. We know he's no Larry Bird.
But in college basketball, all-time bag fumble.
He's just Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah. Yeah.
By
They got
way-
the local Chevy dealership, got him in a Chevy Blazer.
Yeah.
So they got that going for him.
Also, for those that are wondering, in case you're not hearing it on the radio, it's not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
It's cream.
It's cream. Like whipped cream.
Cash rules
It's
everything around me.
fantastic.
Yes.
It's
Which
fantastic.
the NIL matters. You know what? I'm going to pivot real quick. Speaking of NIL mattering, in college basketball, NIL is taking over, not just for players, but we may see an entire reshaping of the NCAA tournament style and what that means going forward for college basketball. Come over here next on Danny and Dusty, 10 The Fan. Well, NIL is impacting more than just your individual deals, as a massive proposition is out there now where a new in-season men's college basketball tournament is said to offer over $2 million in NIL deals. The way this is being worked out, it is being looked at as an 8-team to 16-team event, originally starting as 8 and expanding to 16, will pay out $1 million to each team and another $1 million to the winners.
Oof.
Coaches, collectives, and NIL operators will distribute the earnings to current players. This is the way things are gonna go. It's just, there's so much money, and if all of a sudden you've got the ability to generate money like that, and you've got sponsorships, you've got revenue that you can pour right into this and put directly into players' pockets, this is going to be the invite type of tournament that you're going to get. And if this is the first breeding ground, you have the haves in college football. This is the haves in college basketball.
The one thing that it just gets me now is that, like, this is quite literally pay for play.
Yes.
It is. And they want to play this at the MGM in Vegas. And everybody's going to want to go and play in this thing. But in the first crop of teams sounds like a really good field. It's got Bama, Duke, FAU, Houston, Kansas, Oregon, San Diego State, St. Joe, Syracuse, Virginia. But that according to Front Office Sports. But this is the one thing that you're not supposed to be doing. And I know that the NCAA has recently said we're going to back off any NIL-related investigations because of the Dartmouth unionizing, because of the 2 lawsuits in Tennessee and Virginia that just absolutely hammered the NCAA, because of the pending lawsuit in Los Angeles, which could be absolutely devastating to the NCAA, because part of that unionization in LA with the National Labor Relations Board is USC student athletes are saying we're not just employees of our private institution, we are also employees of the NCAA and the Pac-12. So if that comes to hammer the NCAA yet again, then this is legal, and that this is going to go full steam ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, it's quite literally the only thing you can't do. But I think that the fact that we're getting to the point where this conversation is happening, and it is,
we're going down that path.
They are going to market the you-know-what out of your NIL in every single player that's coming in there for this tournament. And Vegas knows how to do it. This tournament's going to know how to do it. I will be fascinated to see when this tournament is played.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to get, because the purses that they're talking about, this is like NBA in-season tournament level stuff.
Yeah, which lets you know that the NBA can afford more than it's paying for. It's
way more
in-season tournament stuff.
Way more. And that's how you get people to care about it. That's how. That's why the athletes will care moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at the money real quick. I mean, taking $1 million for a team, and you've got a roster of 14.
Yeah.
Do the math.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be equally distributed.
Yep.
If your 5-star guys are getting a little bit more, cutting off a little bit more for those guys, you kind of figure it out from there. The interesting thing is about this, the backing, the event that's running it is Ever Wonder Studio, which is backed by Redbird, which is run by Jeff Zucker, the former CNN boss.
I have no idea what any of that means.
So it's a venture capital firm that is breaking off of news media and featuring sports. And they are getting into the event industry. And I think you're going to see more of these events, air quotes, popping up in sports, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's football. You're going to it's the privatization of sports, getting out of the NCAA entirely, and you're going to see an influx of event-based
Look, this
sports
is nothing new. We just have a new player in the game.
Yes.
This is exactly what all the networks have been doing, because they sell it for their own personal gain. There's a reason why ESPN is willing to pony up $7 billion for the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they're going to make $14 billion off of the college football
They're
playoff.
make a lot of cash off of it.
They're going to make way more money off of it by selling all the ads and selling. And this is why NIL, if you don't like it, it's the most fair thing that they can get for the athletes, because it is quite literally worth billions upon billions of dollars. And
here's how they get their slice.
There was always guys getting a piece of the pie. Now everybody can get their bite out of the pie.
Now the number's on the table and everybody understands what it is.
Everybody knows it.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to change the arms race in college athletics because there's going to be less money going towards, the facilities. Because here's the thing, like in the NFL, guys are going from college to the NFL, and they're getting the facilities are looking around the NFL going, these are not good. The NBA players are going, my facilities in college were way better because that's where the money was being spent, not on the individuals. Now the individuals are getting a little bit of that money too, and that's not a bad thing.
No,
I don't look at it as a bad thing at all, because it's not changing the fact that why we root for our teams.
No,
not one bit.
No, it was always there, but it's interesting. The teams that are lining up and how structurally the haves and have-nots are first being put together. It's just it's something to watch, as you will probably see this start to careen towards a path of this is how the NCAA tournament starts going and away from that. So come up here in hour number 3, we will revisit the quarterback carousel around the NFL, the implications that it has, and some updates on some more free agent signings. Come up here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Number 3 here on Danny and Dusty on a Monday afternoon. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. We love you, whether you're listening on 1080 AM The Fan, watching on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan, or twitch.com/1080 AM The Fan. Thank you. We appreciate you. We love you. And if you want to hang out with us even more, it's a reminder, it's back. The best basketball party in the world, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law presents Fan Madness Thursday and Friday, March 21st and 22nd from noon to 7 each day. There's no better place to watch the tournament than the Stadium Sports Bar, home to the A Sportsbook. Dusty and I and Isaac and Suk will be broadcasting live on location at A for some sweet,
Dude, it is
basketball
awesome.
action.
I love going up there. The Stadium Sports Bar is one of the coolest places to be, especially on the first days of the tournament.
Oh, God,
It's
yeah, no.
It is electric. The upsets, you're
Keep
living and
it
dying with all
running.
the people around you. It's fantastic. And it's a great place to go up. And they got like the Jordan Steakhouse there.
Mhm.
You've got if you don't want to be in the Stadium Sports Bar, you go out, play the tables a little bit, push the button a little bit. It's awesome time out there.
You know,
it's always good to see everybody too.
I went up there for Gabriel Iglesias, the comedian. Thought I would be able to sneak into the Jordan's Steakhouse afterwards.
Yeah, you ain't sneaking.
Didn't have the res and had to come back home with my tail between my leg.
Prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
It's true.
You know?
Reminder, Fan Madness is presented by George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law. Injuries and missing work ruining your day? Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com. He'll make them pay. For more info on Fan Madness, go to 1080thefan.com. And ladies and gentlemen, there is the biggest news of the day is the massive quarterback signing by the Las Vegas Raiders. No, not it.
That's not it.
It's not.
It's a good
Falcons?
fit, though. It's a good fit, though.
Oh.
No. Gardner Minshew inking a 2-year deal with the Raiders. I thought that would probably be a better spot for him would be in Minnesota, where you have Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, and Justin Jefferson.
You mean
But
weapons?
He's going to Vegas, and he's got the opportunity to start. And
Opportunity.
they say they're going to have him compete against Aiden O'Connell, which Antonio Pierce literally said, I mean, as a last resort, we can play AOC. No, you don't want O'Connell on the field.
I think the other AOC has a better chance of starting.
There we go.
Probably not
If
wrong.
you have, at least with Gardner Minshew, he is like a Raider player through and through. Like
All
he will
vibes.
fit
Mustache,
the Raiders.
flowing locks.
They need to
Jorts?
upgrade everything else on that damn roster because offensively, they currently have Devontae Adams, and that's it.
Oh, give Mike Mayer a little bit of love.
All they have is Devontae Adams, and that is it.
It's
Like you don't
a
win
husk.
in the NFL without weapons.
No,
And if you're going cheap on the quarterback position, you better have damn good weapons out there.
And
Devontae Adams is electric, but you are not going to win if you do not put more around Gardner Minshew. And you're just going to waste the final good years of Devontae Adams' career if they can't upgrade the other positions, because Josh Jacobs is now gone. He's playing for the Green Bay Packers. You need to now upgrade your running back room, your number 2 receiver, your tight end position. You have got to have upgrades across the board if you're going to be successful with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback.
And the good news here is that the Raiders aren't spending a ton of money on Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
So you do have cap space to go out and get guys. And you take a look at what is out there still, there's a lot out there to work with.
They've got it's a weird attack that they have. Christian Wilkins, I thought was a great signing to kind of start off this free agency period. So now you have Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, side by side, going to be a prolific duo. And when you have to get to Justin Herbert and you have to get to Patrick Mahomes, those are two good places to start. They need massive upgrades in their secondary on the defensive side of the ball. All of their 2-3 wide receivers, new running back, they have so much work ahead of them.
What if they kick the can on the quarterback here and they go wide receiver in the draft?
Then at least you're upgrading one position. But I mean, if you go wide receiver in the first round and then draft a quarterback in the second, I think then you can justify that.
Yeah.
And try to go for whether it is if Michael Penix is still around, which I don't think he will be, if Bo Nix is still around, which I doubt he will be, because now Denver and Minnesota both need quarterbacks.
It's an interesting thought because the other question is, do you want to go in free agency? Right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars signed Gabe Davis. What does that mean for Calvin Ridley?
Yeah, and that's going to be because Jacksonville, if they retain Ridley, then they need to give up a second-round pick to Atlanta. And I think it'll be a fourth rounder if they just let him go.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big price to pay on top of what you're paying him.
That's a really interesting move into where Calvin Ridley stands with Jacksonville, because we know the gambling thing that kept him out for a season.
And they stuck by him.
But then there's like this roller coaster of his performance over the course of the year where you're going, we need a little bit more consistency. I like what Jacksonville's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing a really good job of kind of making the ancillary moves that are going to make them better, because they had a regression year this year, and those happen. Those happen. It's the difference between being the hunter and the hunted. And every team that pops the next year, especially when you have a young quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence was obviously banged up at the end of the year, it's a different hill you're climbing. And I think Jacksonville is going to be back to being a playoff caliber team this year, because they had another team last year that went from the hunter to the hunted in Houston, and they're set for regression this next year.
And Jacksonville did pile up some injuries.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting spot, but you have the quarterback landing spots are few and far between now, where you've got the Raiders have squared away their quarterback. The Falcons have squared away their quarterback. You go, okay, well, what about Minnesota? And there's news and notes and rumors about Sam Darnold there. Then you start wondering, okay, well, where does Justin Fields go? And it started to look like Justin Fields is going to be a backup.
It kind of feels that way now. I mean, we're not sure what the next move is going to be, but the price tag that the Bears were asking for has gone down exponentially, because Mac Jones, who was in the same draft, was traded for a 6th rounder to Jacksonville. And that's a move that I do sneaky like, in that, look, it's a 1-year rental. You had to give up a 6th-round pick. But if you're worried about Trevor Lawrence getting hurt again, just throw Mac Jones as your backup and just let it ride for a year, and then we'll see where you're at. But now it is Justin Fields. He may not get traded until after the draft.
Which, if you remember their GM coming on and saying, we want to have this squared away, what we're going to do with him, and have him taken care of right after the combine.
Well, they had their plan for the combine, but then Denver's like, screw it. We're going to waste $89 million, and we're going to have Russell Wilson go away. Then the Atlanta Falcons went and they threw $180 million over 4 years to Kirk Cousins, which $100 million is going to be guaranteed. And I just can't fathom why teams are doing this. Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback. You are reaching.
$100 million guarantee on Kirk Cousins is wild.
The guy, it's just mind-blowing. Whoever is Mike McCartney is his agent. Mm-hmm. Every single person in the NFL should hire Mike McCartney as their agent, because whatever he's doing for Kirk Cousins, it is working. My God, he's the third highest paid quarterback ever?
Second highest earnings in NFL history.
Dear God.
Not quarterback, earnings in
what
general.
Are we doing?
$320 million.
And a lot of it was Dan Snyder kind of getting the ball rolling by being a moron and franchise tagging him 3 years in a row. But then after that, you got 2 fully guaranteed contracts from the Minnesota Vikings, who then they were finally like, what were we doing? Mm-hmm. Why are we doing this?
But now they're sitting here going, oh, I understand why we were doing this, because our other option was, oh, crap.
And now Minnesota is looking for a quarterback, and the Raiders are still looking for a quarterback despite Minshew signing.
Gun to your head, Sam Darnold or Ryan Tannehill?
Darnold. Sam Darnold. If I'm Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Darnold.
Okay, why?
He's younger, and you can have him as a backup if you draft a quarterback and you develop that quarterback. He's limited, but so is Ryan Tannehill. He's just older, and his best football is behind him. You can still squeeze years out of Sam Darnold. And Darnold hasn't been horrific when we've seen him in San Francisco.
Sure.
And he learned from Kyle Shanahan. He was in 2 disastrous situations. Who's succeeded with the Jets and the Panthers?
Nobody.
So like we hold it against these guys, and I know he was seeing ghosts. He wasn't good. He was not good.
He was back there getting the crap knocked out of him.
He was getting blasted. He had no weapons around him to help him be successful.
Yeah, those Jets teams had nothing.
I mean, and we hold it against the quarterback like he's the issue. There's a lot of really damn good. Kirk Cousins just got paid $180 million. You put him on the Jets and you put him on the Panthers. Guess what? Kirk Cousins sucks. That's why I go, yeah, sure. If you're gonna roll it out there and you're gonna force me to have Sam Darnold or Ryan Tannehill, I'll take Darnold. Whatever. There's no good option there, and that's why it's all going down to now. You see who is going to be drafting quarterbacks. Denver, Minnesota. They are now drafting quarterbacks. Pittsburgh getting Russell Wilson. They got their guy for 2 years at a really cheap rate.
And they got the Broncos to pay for it.
Yep.
It's a great deal if you can find it. If you can get somebody else to pay for your quarterback, it's really worth it.
But Atlanta and Pittsburgh coming off the board as potential destinations for Fields, it neuters the Bears. But the good thing that the Bears have going is that they have 2 first-round picks anyways. And
one of them is number 1.
With Fields, yeah, you're gonna get your quarterback, and then it's a luxury. Were you hoping that the Patriots wouldn't screw you, and that the Falcons wouldn't land Kirk Cousins, and that Russell Wilson wouldn't be available for Pittsburgh at $1.2 million? Yeah, all of those things pretty rare that are happening right now, especially like a top 10 quarterback in Kirk Cousins hitting the free agent market. And somebody willing to pay
and actually going somewhere else.
Look, it's all super rare.
Yeah.
The Wilson and Cousins situation, very rare. The fact that Mac Jones is a quarterback in his same draft class as Justin Fields gets traded for a 6th-round pick to be a backup in Jacksonville. Yeah, also very rare. Like all the planets are aligning to hose the Chicago Bears in their trade value for Justin Fields, but it's happened. And now you're still going to draft Caleb Williams, and you can just get rid of
figure out
Justin
what happens
Fields,
at 9.
and somebody else is going to get a value out of it. They're going to get a later round pick. Have to give up the late round pick.
We'll see how that part of it shakes out.
Yep.
We'll revisit some more NFL signings here in a little bit. But the Portland Trailblazers, they won a basketball game.
Nice little week.
And they got healthy. We'll get back to that and more coming up here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Trailblazers go 1-1 on the weekend. Nice little effort.
It was a good effort against the Raptors.
It was a good game against the Raptors. They fell a little short against the Rockets because they were shorthanded. They didn't have Jeremy Grant.
Wait, the Portland Trailblazers?
Yeah, no, missing 4 or 5 starters is just
that's crazy.
It's tough to overcome. That they have a great first half. The second half, the Rockets decided, hey, anyone but Anthony Simons is going to beat us. And that was pretty much the story of the game. That and Jalen Green punching Anthony Simons in the chest on one of the most vicious transition dunks I've seen in a while. Sometimes you get got.
I mean, that's snatching your soul. Quite literally, trying to reach in there and just grab it.
I for those that don't know, I sit next to Sean Highkin at the games, and I looked at him in transition. I go, "Come on, Ant, jump!" And then Ant jumped, and I went, "He shouldn't have jumped. Don't jump. It happens, man. I admire the effort because it's a lot easier to get out of the way." But the Blazers
Saturday though was a different story because they came out guns a-blazing, and all of a sudden. Like, every time I would look up, it was like, wait a minute, that lead is getting smaller. Oh, my God, that lead is are they going to blow this thing? And then in overtime, they took care of their business.
Yeah, and then a lot of that has to do with shooting variance. The Blazers were dumb hot in the first half from 3. The Raptors were dumb hot in the second half from 3.
Yeah,
the Raptors were 11 of 23 in the first half from 3. The Portland Trailblazers were, come on, refresh, please. Thank you. 7 of 18 from 3 and shot 48% from the field. So, yeah, that's it's a nice little bump where you start just hitting 3 after 3 after 3, and that's really that and the live ball turnovers.
Look, here's the thing though. Are we going to see again Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Simons, and Tumani Kamara on the floor together again?
No. We talked about this, I believe, on Friday when you were gone.
That's great.
The combination of these 6 players, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, their top 6. If you put Robert Williams in that, their top 7 have played 1/2 of basketball together. The very first game of the season. If you take Robert Williams out of it, they have played 4 games together all season.
I mean,
in all likelihood, I would imagine Brogdon's probably done. He had not a setback, but he was still feeling pain. Jeremy, I think, is going to play again. I don't think that he's being shut down. He was and has been beat to hell this season. He has hit the ground so many times. He genuinely just needs time to.
I mean, we've seen
recover.
Back, hamstring. We've seen
he's beat
all
up.
of it.
He's beat up, and so I think they're going to give him some time and then see if where he lands. Scoot Henderson
sounds like a natural tank.
Yeah, I think it's just going to kind of happen, but I don't think Jeremy's been shut down yet, and I don't think that they're going to shut Jeremy down just yet. Brog, I'm pretty sure he's probably done. But DeAndre Ayton made his return after spraining his hand/wrist and absolutely beat the ever-living crap out of the Raptors.
Yeah, that was good to see, man.
I mean, 30 and 19 for those that didn't see it. 14 of 25. Even took a 3.
30 and 19.
Yeah, he absolutely hammered the glass. I mean, Kelly Olynyk is in a very unfortunate situation because the Raptors are also shorthanded. They did not have RJ Barrett was a late scratch. Scotty Barnes is out with wrist surgery. Jakob Poeltl is out as well. I mean, so they're beat up too. Kelly Olynyk didn't have a snowball's chance in hell against Ayton.
This is going to be what the Blazers are starting now, though, with the exception of Atlanta and Chicago on the 18th. They've got a gauntlet that they're running through,
and
starting tonight with Boston. And then you have Atlanta. Then you have the Knicks, which are reeling and
OG
playing
Anunoby
desperate.
is probably going to be back at that game.
And then you have go to New Orleans, to Chicago. At that point,
New Orleans is the hottest team in the NBA currently right now.
The longest win streak in the NBA right now. And then you have the Clippers back-to-back.
Oof.
And then you have the Nuggets. This is where you sit there and you look at the Portland Trailblazers have the 5th toughest remaining schedule in the entire NBA. And I would venture to guess this stretch that goes to March 23rd is the toughest stretch of anybody in the NBA right now.
And that includes...
And they are going, and we're talking about the health because this is where you're going to start seeing the people that aren't about that tank life rearing their rearing their heads again and going, what is this that this team is putting out on the floor? And the reality of it is that Chauncey's still gotten them to play hard, man. Like,
no, and they are playing hard in every game.
Good. I'm sick of saying that about this team.
Well, I mean, when they're healthy, they're competitive.
They are.
They've been competitive with the
for a half of the first game of the season.
I mean, the last 3 weeks they have been very competitive.
They have been.
They
have been.
Not even competitive. I would say that they have been good.
Don't squint when you say that.
They've been okay.
No,
they've been okay. I mean, they're not that bad.
They're not that bad. Friday was one of those ones where you're like, oh boy.
Oh, again, shorthanded.
The dumpers are going to happen. But to your point, they have been.
Final possession, final 2 minutes with Minnesota, final 2 minutes with Oklahoma City. Like you're within earshot in clutch against good teams.
Hey,
you beat Memphis. You're in with Miami. You had really the only bad game they've had in here. Or the early Minnesota games.
Yeah.
Which were yikes. And then the Charlotte game where nobody knew how to play offense.
That was pretty bad.
But other than that, that's kind of where you've been.
Hey, the good news is, though, that San Antonio and Washington are closing the gap on you because they're somehow winning basketball games lately.
And the Charlotte Hornets are right there with you.
All right.
So they find themselves in an interesting spot. They're getting healthier. You got Scoot Henderson back. He looked competent. I think you're seeing him look more comfortable. And Tamani Kamara.
I love Tamani.
Tamani has been tremendous the last couple weeks, and this started on that terrible road trip when they had their come to God meeting, and the roles and expectations were significantly stricter, particularly for the younger guys. And I think that's where you start. You go, okay, let's start here, and then we'll kind of whittle it down once we kind of know exactly who's going to slot in where with all those injuries. Because when you have that many injuries, you kind of have to let guys out of their comfort zones and experiment and see what they can and can't handle. Tamani has become very, very, very solid on the offensive end within his role, and it's been allowed to expand. The biggest part of that has been he's shooting the living hell out of the ball. Over the last 10 games, he's shooting over 50% from three on almost 4 attempts a game.
Solid.
So he starts finishing around the rim. He starts keeping the ball moving. He knocks down his threes. And we already know he's not just a good defensive player for a rookie. He's just a good defensive player.
Yeah. And I'll be quite honest here. One thing that has been great to see is the Blazers' other first-round pick is starting to look more and more like it will be lottery bound after the play-in. The Golden State Warriors have come back down to earth again.
Yeah.
Like they had a surge. They had a push.
And now Steph's injury.
And yes, I don't like that.
No.
But at the same time, you sit there and you go, okay, that's what the Blazers need to be looking at is assets that they can move.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I don't think the Warriors are going to fall out of the play-in. But
no,
they're probably going to finish
Houston has
10th.
to catch them.
Yeah, and that's a 4.5 game lead. So with 18 or 19 remaining
happening
for those guys, it's not happening.
Blazers tried though by giving the Rockets a win.
Just helping out the cause is all you're going for.
So sad.
But the big thing is for the Blazers here is that Scoot is back healthy. DeAndre is back healthy. Yeah. Anthony is out there with those guys. Delano Banton has maybe played himself into the 15th roster spot next year. He's got a non-guarantee on his deal.
Let's wait till the draft.
Well, again, the fact that they traded a nothing draft pick that will never convey for the opportunity to look at a guy who could be your third or fourth guard, that's a good thing.
You got something for nothing.
And those are the kind of things that you look for in this season and go, okay, it's a nice little thing. But like you said, there's fifth toughest schedule down the stretch. They're going to get their teeth kicked in on this upcoming stretch because it's tough, and then they go on a 7-game in 15 days.
Can we answer the question that everybody wants to hear, though?
What's that?
10 wins away from 28.
They're not getting it.
Okay, there we go.
The over is not hitting. It's not going to happen.
I don't know, man. You got the Wizards, the Rockets twice, the Hornets, and the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Twice. You get the Hawks twice.
I think things are just going to handle themselves.
Okay. All right. Hey, that's what we like to hear.
That's what we like to hear. It's the important part of this.
That's what some of us like to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not worried about the over, and the Blazers, they need to make sure they do themselves some favors.
There you go.
Just got to make sure things line up accordingly. For those wondering, the Trailblazers take on the Boston Celtics tonight after having their entire lineup, the Boston Celtics, the entire starting lineup was questionable heading into last night. Everyone but Porzingis is now okay to play, which moved the line from 8.5 to 11.5, I believe.
Real quick.
9.5 to
9.5,
11.5.
11.5. Yeah.
So,
2 points happened like that.
Also, don't touch lines that big.
Well, the 8.5, I will.
But
I really wanted to.
11.5? No. No touchy. All right, coming up next, we will come back again one more time to NFL free agency because it just doesn't stop.
We got more signings, and some of them are really damn good. And there's a couple guys that are out there that you're okay. Seahawks made a move too.
We'll get to that and more. But first, it's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air, serving Portland, Southwest Washington, and the Gorge. Online at aneheatingandcooling.com. It's hard to stop a train. First on the Fan, Game 4 of the Trailblazers 6-game homestand this evening with the Celtics in town. 7:30 tip on Root Sports and NBA TV. Malcolm Brogdon, Shaden Sharp, Jabari Walker out. Jeremy Grant, Abu Baji, Ashton Higgins, Justin Minaya questionable. The Blazers are 11.5-point underdogs. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting Bengals receiver T. Higgins has requested a trade. Elsewhere, behind the Shield, free agency negotiating period has begun. Eagles and former Giants running back Saquon Barkley, 3 years, $37.75 million. Quarterback Kirk Cousins, 4 years, $180 million with the Falcons. Raiders and defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, 4 years, $110 million. Eagles defensive end Bryce Huff, 3 years, $51.1 million. Packers and former Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, that one's 4 years and $48 million. Titans, former Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, 3 years, $24 million. The Colts and wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., 3 years for $70 million. Eagles and Pro Bowl left guard Landon Dickerson, 4 years, $87 million extension. That makes him the highest paid guard in NFL history. The Bears and running back DeAndre Swift, 3 years, $24.5 million. Giants and guard John Runyon, 3 years, $30 million. Rams and former Seahawks tight end Colby Parkinson, 3 years, $22.5 million. Panthers and guard Robert Hunt, 5 years, $100 million. Packers and safety Xavier McKinney, 4 years, $68 million. Giants and running back Devin Singletary, 3 years, $16.5 million. And the Raiders and quarterback Gardner Minshew, 2 years, $25 million. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Daily Boost is the podcast for in-depth analysis on the sports betting landscape. Listen on Odyssey or wherever you get your podcasts.
What, 6.5, 7 hours now into NFL free agency, and this thing's off and humming.
There's some big moves going on, and the Seahawks finally in on a move where they're not losing guys because Will Dissly's going to the Chargers, another low-rent move by the LA Chargers. But
they're on the board.
The Seahawks have signed Leonard Floyd. And this is, if you're looking at Leonard Floyd, he is a little bit long in the tooth, but he will fit Mike McDonald's defense. And you're looking at a guy the last 4 years has been averaging 9.5 sacks a year.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming off a 10.5 sack year, tackle for loss machine. They need to bolster their defense and kind of reinvent their defense. Now, you got Bobby Wagner's gone. You got both of your safeties are out. People are thinking that Xavier McKinney would be a guy that may be a target at the safety position. He's off the board. The Seahawks are in this position where they're going young, but they're also, you got to sprinkle in these vets, and it's going to be a tough build for Seattle.
Yeah,
but
well,
Leonard Floyd, I think, is a really good start when you're mixing those guys in.
They're also in discussions with they like their Leonard Williams,
which is a guy you kind of need to keep because
you gave up capital for
you're
him.
giving up a second-round pick this year as part of that trade with the Giants, and the expectation is that
it's a nice interior of your line. The Leonards?
It is.
It's not quite the Vikings with the Williamses back in the day, but the Leonards is a pretty formidable little duo.
With Witherspoon and Reek Woolen, your corners are going to be okay as long as you guys can stay healthy.
You have a very Wagner-sized hole in the middle of your defense.
But it's schematically way different where you're not just replacing the leading tackler in the NFL.
You're redoing
in the
your
same
entire
system.
scheme.
You're revamping.
But you also
what you do
this is the entire middle of the Seahawks defense is gone.
Yes, sir.
Both safeties have been released.
Yep.
Bobby
Wagner.
Bobby Wagner's out, so it makes sense to get strong in the middle and add a Leonard Floyd and retain a Leonard Williams, so that you do have some rigidity to the middle of your defense.
There's a trade that is in the works though that could be pretty big, and I don't know how this is going to work out, but there are reports out there that the Giants and Panthers are talking about a trade for Brian Burns, who they placed the franchise tag on. So we'll be playing at a high number. You're going to have to pay him an ungodly amount of money because he is one of the best on the outside. He's young. He's the only damn good player that Carolina had last year. But if the Giants can pull that, I don't know what that capital looks like. They have 2 second-round picks this year. Obviously, Carolina, with the way their roster looks and the fact that they're losing dudes in free agency left and right, and they were already not very good, they need to get back into the first round. Giants can give up the number 6 pick to do that when you have got so many other holes that you're looking for.
If they do, they're dumb.
Yeah, but then if that means that they don't want to get into the quarterback sweepstakes and they don't want to trade up to get into that New England range at 3 to grab Drake May or Jaden Daniels, and they don't want to get J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, or Michael Penix, they're just going to roll with Daniel Jones again. Maybe you are willing to part with that 6th overall pick. I don't.
The exchange of that capital doesn't make any sense. That sounds like a terrible way to win a franchise.
But you do have 2 second-round picks in a very deep draft where, you can get very good receivers in the second round of this draft, and you may be able to fill some of the holes that you have on your offensive line in the second round as well. That was a bit of a head scratcher to see that New York and
they have so many other things.
Carolina.
Both teams have so many other Again, we can all collectively throw our head backs and laugh at the Carolina Panthers, who have had an offer for 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns. And they scoffed, "How dare you? He's with us. He's going to be with us long term." And if you go and then flip him for 2 seconds, I mean, that's asset mismanagement to a T, which, again, we've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks. Carolina Panthers, dysfunctional, dumb franchise.
Very dumb.
You just kind of throw your hands up. One franchise that spent a ton of money over the last couple of years and is having to deal with the ramifications for it, the Miami Dolphins. They're able to at least keep one of their tackles because they lost their guard. Terron Armstead is going to re-sign back with the Miami Dolphins per Ian Rappaport. They don't have. I haven't seen terms on the deal yet. I'm assuming it's going to be a disgusting amount of money because tackles are never cheap.
Yeah. No, and that's a necessary move that they need to make. When they had all the bloodletting to kind of just get themselves into a position to be under the cap, it was because they needed Teron Armstead to be part of their offensive line moving forward, and they knew it. They are in a very weird, they're a precarious position because of the fact that they pushed all in over the last 2 years, and the way they went down in Kansas City this year, I mean, that's got to be a horrible taste in their mouth. But they did push all in, and they just came up so short. It's disgusting because they had to go on the road, and they had to go to negative 27-degree Arrowhead Stadium where there's got people like fans are getting their fingers amputated from that game.
Yeah, that's wild.
But going from Miami up to there, it was a recipe for disaster, and it was awful.
It was, and there's other casualties from that. Obviously, I mentioned their
Excuse me, did I say Leonard Floyd's going to Seattle? I meant San Francisco. He's going to San Francisco.
I thought you said.
I
thought you said Seattle. Too.
I did say Seattle. It meant he's going to San Francisco.
Oh,
he's going to, and that is
well. There's your
Eric
Armstead. That's your
hole.
replacement. Yeah,
they're filling that hole. That's on me. My bad on that one.
The other side of this is Robert Hunt, the guard for the Miami Dolphins, has signed with the Panthers, and they gave him a truckload of money, 5 years, $100 million. So what the hell are the Panthers doing? I understand, like, you want to protect Bryce Young.
That's a rudderless ship, man.
But it's like, okay, you're going to trade Brian Burns, but you're not going to trade Brian Burns, but now you're going to trade Brian Burns. Now you've got guys that are just flocking off of your team.
It's bad.
Just in mass exodus, but you're also going to go give $20 million a year to a guy. None of this makes any sense. I don't understand what is happening here.
You've got a team that has so many shortfalls. You need to I actually like it that you're going to the offensive line because you don't have a first round pick this year where the interior of the offensive line is loaded. And the best of the best are going to be going in that first round, especially late in that first round. You do have the first pick of the second round, but you have so many holes up front. If you want to not absolutely destroy Bryce Young early in his career, which is usually what bad franchises do, it starts with your offensive line. You have got to build your offensive line, and you have to do that because you traded up, you invested so much capital in getting Bryce Young. They have to do everything in their power to make sure they are better on the O-line. If that means that, you reset everything on the defensive side where, they lost Luvu to the Commanders, one of their linebackers. It appears they're ready to trade Brian Burns because he don't want to go back there. Then you do everything you can to build your O-line. They absolutely have to, because Bryce Young, he can't operate this way.
No.
He's not big enough. He is not as creative enough and no young quarterback is, because your head's spinning in the NFL.
Yeah, and then you need the time.
And they need weapons because they are void of talent.
The Panthers should get off of Brian Burns. Now, they should have done it at the trade deadline, but they should get off of Brian Burns. They should not go out there and pay him all this money. And if they can get two second round picks for him, they should go do it, because they have so many holes and they have so little draft capital after the Bryce Young deal that they need to just fully reset. And anybody of any real value, they need to strip this thing down for parts and build back up on the cheap, because they just don't have anything functional that makes Brian Burns is a right now piece. The Carolina Panthers are 5 years away.
5 years, $100 million. Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah, for Robert Hunt. Yeah,
for Robert Hunt.
$20 million a year. They're not paying anybody else, so it doesn't matter.
It's not bad.
But that's what I'm saying. Just go out, get your books clean. You should not have dirty books right now.
I'll tell you what, there's one move that was made, and T. Higgins may be requesting a trade from Cincinnati, but they went out and they got Geno Stone, safety from Baltimore. Had 7 picks this year. They're actually paying money for Geno Stone.
For somebody, just not for T.
Yeah, and they're actually getting him on pretty good value.
Or Tyler Boyd.
2 years, $15 million for a guy who had 7 picks last year.
Who's going to play opposite of Jamar Chase? If you're not going to pay T and you're not going to re-sign Tyler Boyd,
you think they're going to go and try to draft one of these guys again? Get another cheap receiver, but they're sitting at 18th. They can get.
There's going to be at least a receiver. Brian Thomas, another LSU guy.
Well, you could get there'll be plenty. There's no shortage of receivers. Whether you go A.D. Mitchell out of Texas, you can get. Troy Franklin will be available. I don't know if you want to take him in the first round though, but second round maybe. They with the crop of receivers that are playing, I think you'll be able to fill that void. And just give Joe Burrow all the targets.
It's just going to be an interesting thing here as we get ready to go to break here. The linebackers are starting to go.
Yeah.
So there's been like 5 tweets in a row from the NFL Newsbreakers. Linebacker. So everybody has gotten to that portion of their free agent proceedings. We will come back after this and get you ready to hand you over to Isaac and Sue. Come here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Thing that happened over the weekend. Rudy Gobert threw up his hands at Scott Foster, and I don't even know if he insinuated. He basically said, "You're being bought off," which He wouldn't be the first person to do it.
He did the money sign. He gave Scott Foster the money sign, which I think is a hilarious troll. And I'm not a Rudy Gobert guy by any stretch.
No.
But at the same time, when it comes to Scott Foster,
I mean, the guy that was implicated by Tim Donaghy in gambling scandals.
yeah,
No way.
yeah, he's just not a very good
Human. You don't say ref. You can say human
or official. He's not a good official.
No.
Like, it's crazy.
And yet he somehow gets graded as a top official regularly. I don't know who has better blackmail, Kirk Cousins or Scott Foster. Who has better blackmail? Kirk's at least a nice guy.
Man. Kirk Cousins does, because those deals are just absolutely wild.
Kirk must kidnap family members.
I think so. I think so.
Ransom, little hostage. I like it.
I would be there for it.
Yeah,
I'm here for all of it.
It would make more sense.
But that fine,
100,000.
It's the most the NBA.
It's the most they can levy.
Can
Yes.
suspend or fine a guy for, but at the same time, it's one that they are so deep into how poor their officials have been this year that that's the reason why they are giving the $100,000 fine.
Yeah,
because the NBA is sick of all of the heat that, rightfully so, their players are catching, or their refs are catching.
Yeah,
they
suck.
They deserve it, though.
Yes,
they absolutely.
All the major
deserve
sports
it.
right now, the only thing keeping Major League Baseball further down is that Angel Hernandez is somehow returning to Major League Baseball.
Angel Hernandez.
Did you see that?
He's
back for another year.
He tossed a guy in a spring training game.
Goodness.
Tossed him in a spring training game.
How is he back?
I don't know. It is some of these guys, and every league has them, right? Every single league.
And you would
has
think that they wouldn't, though.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, Bill Vinovich, right? He was at the heart of the non-call PI in the Rams Saints.
Yep.
He's actually is a really good official. The NFL is doing it so
singular
well.
mistakes
happen. And that's the thing with the NFL is that they nip a lot of it in the bud. And
remember
they
when
start
Hockey
making
League got
guys.
hit? Got the two. Remember they made it public.
Yeah.
He was suspended for 2 weeks.
Yeah. The NBA don't know what they're doing.
They keep it all in house purposefully.
Don't know what they're doing.
It's like, why don't you make this public?
But Rudy Gobert getting a $100,000 fine, yeah, it was worth every penny.
Oh God, yeah.
Man, those Minnesota
money well spent.
Those Minnesota Timberwolves fans. Just go
Also,
ahead
this is
and
the third time a Timberwolf has been fined for criticizing the officials.
This is the hard part, though, and we know this about Scott Foster. He will hold that.
Oh, he's
grudge.
vindictive. The man went after Chris Paul's kid.
Yeah, he will do this to Rudy. Agency is well underway.
It is
something that we all need to remember. And this is